Let's talk about selling art online for absolute beginners in 2025. My name is Dries Ketels. I've won dozens of awards, exhibited my art throughout the world, Buenos Aires, Berlin, Milan, London, and I've made multiple six figures from art. Now the first step in selling your art is understanding that all of the artists that you know, that you look up to, didn't know how to sell art before they sold their first piece of art. Nobody knew how to do it. No matter how many videos you see, no matter how much you prepare, you will never know how before you actually do it. And so the first step is to just step in the marketplace and present your art to the world in a way that people understand that it is for sale and have a very easy trajectory from where they are to where they can buy your work. In the second step, you don't want to spend all of your time in the beginning in acquiring art world credentials. I remember very vividly that in the beginning I was constantly trying to prove to the world that I was capable, that I was sufficient, that I was good, out of insecurity. And so I was participating in awards, and then I won some awards, then I was applying to magazines, and then they featured some of my work. And after Vice, one of those famous magazines, featured my work, I remember vividly that first delusionment in realizing that nobody actually cared. Nobody cares about those things. People are not going to suddenly buy your art because you have a feature in a particular magazine or because you won a particular award. This is not how it works. Most of that is a waste of your time. Most of that doesn't actually matter. And the couple of awards, a couple of things that actually matter, most of that is done through networking. Who knows who? And all of those super awards, they are already decided long before it happens. And so it's all kind of manipulated anyway. And so what I would recommend instead is to build a distribution channel out. If you build your distribution channel first, then you can sell whatever you want afterwards. Art or non-art, it doesn't actually matter. Now, the reason I'm recommending to build your distribution channel out so that you can then sell whatever you want afterwards is because the traditional methods of getting into a gallery are dying out. These galleries most of the times don't know what they're doing. In fact, these galleries are paying me to explain them how to sell art. And so a lot of artists put those people on a pedestal when in fact if they would go out themselves, build their distribution channels out, they would be making way more money than those mid-level to low-level galleries and would also be way more free. And when it comes down to it all, having those exhibitions, having those features are not going to save you. I know a lot of artists who have had solo exhibitions year after year after year after year for 2 decades. And then suddenly the galleries fall away during COVID, and you know what? They can't sell a single goddamn work anymore. Sure, their art was being sold for 20k, and then suddenly, a couple of years, nothing. They don't actually know. They can't actually do anything. And so it's a very vulnerable position that you put yourself in there. Now, as a little side note, there is something to say about solo exhibitions. It's not all bad. There is something to say about features and awards and solo exhibitions. For example, in the beginning of this video, I mentioned a couple of those things so that people would actually take me serious. But does that actually make the video better? No. It doesn't. It just convinces people that you are worth listening to. And the art world is full of those types of people. If you go to the art fairs or if you go to openings, you will have losers who can't do that. And then you have the midwits, the mid-level people who are constantly talking about, oh, this collector collects my art, and this gallery has shown me, and this award has featured me. It's all bullshit. And it's a waste of your time. And then if you go all the way up the top of the art world, people stop doing that. The Larry Gagosian is not bragging to people most likely when he meets those people, and so it's only the midwits that are actually doing that. Now, the reason I'm recommending you to build that distribution channel out so that you can then sell whatever you want afterwards is of course partially because that's the way you sell art online. You need to drive traffic to your artworks on a page where people can actually buy it very easily. That's the equation. But I also recommend this because the art world is changing. If you look at the art world today and you compare it to, for example, 6 years ago, the artists who had 1 million Instagram followers were selling their art for $2,000 a piece, which is nothing. At that same time, there were artists who had solo exhibitions and the traditional credentials, and they were selling their art for 20k a piece, even though they only had 500 subscribers or 1,000 followers on Instagram. But they were very busy in the traditional field. Now, however, 6 years later, those same artists that have 1 million Instagram followers, they are selling art for tens of thousands of dollars a piece. And so the whole world has flipped upside down. People start to see followers as credentials in and of itself. As a matter of fact, a lot of the galleries nowadays, when they are searching for new artists, they are searching for social media followers. They are searching for people who can drive traffic to the gallery and build the brand of the gallery up at the very minimum. And so this whole building the distribution channel out becomes an integral part of any strategy online. Now, there are a lot of people who will say, hey, Dries, but then I'm becoming an influencer. I don't want to become an influencer. I want to become an artist. I want to spend my time making art and then become good at that. And then the galleries or whatever will sell it automatically for me, or people will buy it because the art is so qualitative. These people have to understand as quickly as possible that artists were influencers long before the internet came along. Nothing has changed. The artists back in the days were influencers. The sole purpose of the artist and the gallery that was working with them was generating virality, generating a trend around the art, generating a trend around what they were selling. It was just a different type of trend. And they were putting it all on magazines. And these people had these personal brands. Artists were the first people who had personal brands. So nothing has changed. We changed magazines into YouTube channels. We changed magazines into Instagram channels. We changed magazines into TikTok channels. But it's the exact same thing. And so building that distribution channel out is simply the most tried and true way, where you can do it in and of yourself, without galleries, without having to rely on others, and you can actually pull it off without money, without having a budget prior to the whole thing. Now, in step 3, I want to give you one of the best advices from one of the best artists to ever live, Pablo Picasso. Let me read it out loud so that I have it perfectly. The meaning of life is to find your gift. The purpose of life is to give it away. By pressing the like button on Dries Ketels videos, Pablo Picasso. And if Pablo says it, I obviously can't disagree. Now, on a more serious note, what I hear a lot from beginner artists is that they will make it all official. They will develop a business from day one. An official business. Now with like VAT numbers and all of that stuff. Now, these beginners have never sold an artwork in their life. And so they're gonna make that official. And so they will be paying to make that official. They will be paying all sorts of stuff to the government, social contributions, like extra tax. It's just gonna be a mess. Difficult, a mess, and costly. In a world where artists in the first couple of years on average don't make a lot of money, and so this is bad advice. People should not be doing that at all. What I would recommend instead, and please don't take this as official advice. This is not tax advice. This is not official advice. Please don't do this, okay? But in a world where you are making money and then you're paying taxes on the money that you make, and then you're using that to buy materials, paint and canvases, and you pay taxes on that as well. And then with the remaining money that you have, you invest it because that's what everybody says, and then you make money on your investments, and then you pay taxes on the money that you made on your investments, and then you're asleep and you pay sleep taxes, and then you eat and you pay taxes, and then as you're making transactions, you are also paying fees to the banks. But we all know that the banks are the same as the government, so these fees are nothing more than taxes as well, and then there's inflation tax and all sorts of taxes. So in that world, I would not recommend you to start an official business from day one. This will only cost you. What I would recommend you to do is leave all of the official things behind and just start selling. First you sell, first you make money, and then after you made money, you can start thinking about turning it into something official. First you test out whether or not it actually works, and then you do the whole official thing. And so don't let the amateuristic place that you're in now stop you from selling art. It's okay. The government is not gonna come get you because you sold one piece of art without having an official business. It's not gonna happen. Now, before we go to the 5th step in our stepping plan to become one of the world famous artists and make all of your dreams come true, let me give you a PDF over 20 pages where I go over my entire art fair strategy. I went on art fairs. I went on several art fairs, me myself as an independent artist selling on those fairs. And I listed all of my best tips in that file, which is obviously going to help you considering that you want to be selling your art. It's free. Link in the description. And by the way, with free, I actually mean free. There are always these people in the comment sections, there are strings attached, it's not completely free. Of course it's free. It's 20 pages free. Sure, you'll put your email address in. The people who don't want to put their email address in to solve all of their problems, to actually become an artist, to actually sell art, to actually make money, are people that are always going to fail. Anyway, step 5. Now in the next step, you want to understand that the trajectory that you're going on is a trajectory that is completely different from the normies. The normies will not like you trying to climb out of the bucket, because the world is a bucket, a crab's bucket, and all the crabs want to drag each other down. And so what is going to happen is that people will criticize you. Some of your friends will laugh with you. Some of your friends will make snarky comments, and you have to just brush that all off. If nobody is criticizing you, it means you are not doing anything interesting anyway. And so you want that to come. This is how it goes. Those crabs in the buckets will try to drag you down. You can't let that happen. This is just an inevitable part of going on that artistic journey, especially later in age. Let's say you're 40 or 50 or 60. Your surroundings don't expect you to suddenly change things up and open a new chapter in your life. They definitely don't like that. They want everything to be the same. And so, of course, these people are going to massively criticize you. Not massively, just a little bit. I don't want to make you afraid here, okay? It's a small percentage of people that know you that will criticize you. The majority will encourage you, at least in your face. Next up, we have to talk about shipping your art. A lot of beginners are afraid of shipping their art because they've never shipped an artwork in their life, and they're afraid that it might get lost or damaged, or people receive the artwork and then they say they didn't receive the artwork. And in their fear, they will compensate massively by overdoing it, by going complete professional mode. And so you see artists that are selling art for $1,000, and then they also decide, or even lower than that, like $600 or $700, and then they also decide to build a whole crater for the artwork. A crater. You're building a wooden crater for an artwork that's $700 because you're afraid that it will get damaged, or even worse, you're afraid that you will come over as an amateur. This is not, it's not what you should be doing. And what I would recommend instead is not spend a crazy amount of time building a crater or money building a crater, but keeping it extremely simple. If you're a complete beginner, it's totally fine to have a carton box and put your art in a carton box. The chances that your art will get lost in shipping or damaged or any of those things is very, very small. And on average, I would say that that will happen perhaps 1% of the time. And so then you just take that with it. If you sell 100 artworks, 1% of them will be damaged, or something will happen, or the person will claim something. Just give them their money back, or something, ask for pictures, whatever it is, and it's gonna be fine. These are fears that are holding you back, fears that are trying to push you into not doing anything. These are things that are laziness in disguise. This is not actually fear. It's just your body trying to put you into the not doing anything state. Now, the next step in our master plan comes from a particular story. I'm not sure if it's real or mythological, but the point is valuable either way. So you have this teacher, this art instructor, and he's in class, and he designs a particular task, a particular project for the class. He says to 50% of the people in the class to make one artwork that year. One artwork, and on the one artwork they would be graded. And so it needed to be the best artwork ever, like the best possible thing. One artwork, that's it. And it would be graded on quality, perspective, line, color, quality. And then to the other half of the class, 50%, he said, you guys will not be graded on quality or aesthetics or beauty, none of that stuff. You will be graded on the amount of artworks you make. And so if you make 100, you will be rated, like, I don't know, small amount. And if you make 1,000 artworks or 500 artworks, then you are not just passing the class, you are absolutely passing with pure glory. And then at the end of the year, he looked at the two groups, and what he observed was very peculiar. The first group, who only had one artwork, they barely made any improvements. They were all overthinking it. They were all trying to be perfectionistic. They were all trying to make the best artwork possible. And because of that, were not actually doing anything. The second group, however, they massively improved. Why? Because they were just constantly creating and constantly doing. Now, this is the mindset that you need as a beginner artist, because as a beginner artist, your trajectory is full of growth in the future. And so you will develop a mindset, or you want to develop a mindset, where you are going to grow the most, where you are going to become the best version of yourself. And how are you going to do that? By allowing yourself more chances to hit a home run. More chances, more artworks, put everything out there, constantly make videos. Don't try to be a perfectionist. You grow in quantity, and then after you go through that period of quantity, you can go towards quality. Now in the next step, we have to talk about potentially the most important thing of them all, where you are going to sell your art, a place where you can sell your art online, or the best place. Now there are a lot of options here. You can go for online galleries, you can go for online marketplaces, you can be building your own website, you can do the whole NFT thing, you can use social media and then drive traffic towards, for example, a newsletter. You can do all sorts of things, and depending on what you choose, you will either win or lose. Most of the strategies out there, most of the websites that you could be using to sell your art are not a good option. They are in fact short-term options or no options whatsoever. And so it's very important to choose the right option here. Now this might actually be the most important thing of them all, because the place you choose to sell your art will have an impact on everything else you do, from the traffic that you drive all the way to the art that you sell and how you present it. And so this might be the most important thing, and some of those options are terrible. And so in an ideal world, we will be spending another 20 minutes on just this alone. But I'm not gonna do that, because I already did in a video called Best Place to Sell Your Art Online. It's linked in the description and the end screen. Don't forget the free PDF, 20 pages of art selling tips just for you. That said, get the hell out of here.